Yo guys, what's going on? Once again, I'm Sincerity back with another video, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to create something a little like this, like you can see in front of you. Yes, it is a dual texture. A lot of people have been using these for intros, and I think they look sexy AF. So without further ado, let's get into Blender and let's start making this texture. So I'm just going to turn on my screencast real quick. So then, boom, here we go. So I will warn you, this does take quite a lot of CPU power to generate because you have to convert the text into a mesh and then you have to subdivide it a load of times, but we'll get into that. So first of all, what I want you to do is create your text. I don't know why it's created over there, but anyway, we'll just recenter that to 0. So if it's done something like that, just come over, press N on your keyboard, and then you see down here the 3D cursor, change all those values to 0. So then now when we import stuff, that should be at 0, and then for the text that's misplaced, set that all the way down to 0 as well. So we can just press N, get rid of that. We're just going to bring it to the center just a little bit, and then we're going to set the geometry to origin. So come over here, origin to geometry, or shift control alt C, but who has time to put all their fingers on those buttons for that command anyway? Okay, we're going to switch over to cycles. I just feel that cycles is a lot better rendering at accurate light paths. Get that right in the center there. Okay, so on your keyboard now with the text selected, don't forget that it's right mouse to select. Press R on your keyboard, X, and then 90, and then hit enter, and then boom, your text will be rotated on the X axis 90 degrees to bring it nice and central to the camera. Now, on your number pad, I want you to press 1. That will bring your camera view to front orthographic. Orthographic means there is no depth in anything. Everything is equally spaced. So now what I want you to do is you don't have to learn this. This will just come naturally. Press down Control, press down Alt, and then hit number pad 0. So make sure you do have a number pad, or just go down to View and then Align View, Align View to Active or Camera. It's somewhere along there, and you'll be able to select all your views there. And as you can see, we've got pretty much everything that we need. So now we've got our camera centered, we're just gonna go ahead, delete this light source, and we're gonna work on the main part of the text. I will get to lighting in a minute. Just scale it up a little bit. So right click, hit S for scale, and then just scale it up. We'll choose a nice font. I did have one that looks really nice. Yes, Distortion Digital. Again, I will link all this down in the description, the program, the texture, everything that you'll need to know. We'll just change this to texture. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to do, keeping this central, we are going to add some extrusion to it. So literally, just hold middle mouse button and move your camera around and pan around. Define a nice view. We'll extrude it 0.15, and that'll give the text some nice depth, as you can see. Then we'll add a slight little bevel on it, maybe 0.01. There we go, got a nice bevel, and we'll put the resolution maybe up to 5. And just scroll down here and we'll increase the letter spacing just a little bit so it's not quite so clunky. Okay, cool. So we got that done. We are pretty happy with our text now. What we're going to do is we're going to convert this into a mesh. And to do that, hold down Alt and press C with the text selected, and then select the second one, Mesh from Curve MetaSurf Text. Select that one, and now when you press Tab to go into edit mode, everything will be in faces. The text will no longer be editable. This is a point that I want to reiterate. Make sure you are completely happy with your text before you convert it to a mesh, as you won't be able to edit it like a text anymore. And if you want to go back, just Control Z again. There we go. And now it's a text, and you can just go ahead and change your lettering. So just put texture. There we go. Tab, Alt C, boom, done. Okay, now we got that sorted out. I'm just going to set the origin to geometry again. That's a little off. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So now the next step is actually creating the bit that we want to use to separate the text. And to do that, we are going to add in a cube. So Shift A, Mesh, Cube, add that in. We're going to press number pad 1 to bring it back to the orthographic mode. Hold down Shift and middle mouse button and just pan around to get your texture pretty much in full view. And we'll just scale it out a little bit. We'll just drag our camera away because we don't really need that right now. Okay, so we're going to scale the we're going to scale the cube down. So scale and then 0.05. And I think that will be a good size to use to break up our text. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale this on the x-axis to make it bigger that way. The x-axis is the red arrow. So press S, X, and then just scale it out. I often use the mouse just to manually scale it out because I hate fiddling with numbers. I'm not really a numbers person, to be honest. So now what we're going to do, just going to scale that out a bit more. Actually, scale X, scale it out a bit more, and then that should be good. Now what we're going to do, go and press Tab to go into edit mode, and with it all selected, hit subdivide once, hit subdivide again, and maybe hit subdivide again. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 vertices, or nine sections. So now, as you can probably tell, we're going to move this to create a nice curve. So to do this, you may find an issue if you try to select one of them and you'll do that, and then it kind of freaks out. And even if you press B to multi-select them, it still messes around and spazzes out. So what you're going to need to do is you need to deselect this, limit selection to visible. So now when we press B, it will select all the faces in an infinite amount of distance that way. So all the faces in that little area will be selected no matter where they are. So now when we move it, all of the vertices and faces move together. Okay, now we're just going to turn on proportional editing, and that'll make our curve nice and smooth. So we're going to do that, and okay, so now, okay, escape that, I just press C. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to increase the size. So with proportional editing, with that selected, you're going to scroll out the middle mouse button to about halfway, and then what we'll do is we'll just rotate that a little bit like so, and we'll maybe drag it under the T. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to have that central, and for this one we're going to press B again, make sure nothing is selected, so press A to deselect everything, press B, hold down, and then drag over that, and hopefully your proportional editing will be the same, and then we'll just rotate this a little bit like so. So that's pretty much our cube done. I'm pretty happy with that separation. Now what we're going to do, press A to deselect everything, press Tab to get out of edit mode, and now we're going to pan out. So as you can see, now our cube is in front of the text. Now you may be asking, okay, what was the point of that? Because clearly we can't separate the text as it is now. Fear not, we're going to expand this, so scale on the y-axis, and then again just drag it out so it's nice and big and it covers all of our text. So now when we separate it, it'll actually go through everything. Okay, so what we're going to do now, because as you can see, it's still a little bit blocky. The face or the cube is a little bit blocky. So we're going to add a modifier just to clear that up. We're going to add a subdivision surface just to clear some of those blocks out and make it look nice and curvy. So we're going to apply that. Don't worry. Okay, now comes the part where having a good PC is key. I'm not going to do it too much because obviously I'm recording, so I don't want to completely lag out my desktop. So we're going to add a remesh, and basically what this will do is it will turn everything into little square faces. So it will remesh the whole thing into square faces, and the octree depth is basically how small those squares are. So the smaller the squares, the more faces, the more accurate the remesh, essentially. So we're going to turn that up to 8. See how that looks. As you can see, we've only got one letter still there. So we're gonna uncheck remove disconnected pieces. So now hopefully all our pieces are connected. See if we can get away with 9. If we do 9 octree depth, and we maybe turn the scaling down just a little bit, and we will turn the mode into smooth. Okay, I am fairly happy with that as it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of people worry that their art or their intros have to be perfect. Everything has to be completely square. No, it doesn't, because the key into making good art is imperfection. So now here comes the key bit. So as you can see, if we press tab, your computer will probably lag out. Where's this one? Because that would be a shame. Okay, so this one has got the remesh, and I'm actually surprised. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and apply that. So hopefully now, when we press it, we should have a load of little cube faces, as you can see. So we'll go out of edit mode just to hide that, because that does lag your PC. And if you look at the top, now we have 136,000 vertices and 136,000 faces. That is a lot of processing. Okay, so now on the text, still selected the text, we're going to add another modifier. And we're going to add a Boolean modifier this time. And the object that we're going to use to intersect it will be the cube. It should be on intersect by default. And if not, just change it to difference. So hopefully the text should be visible. So you don't want union, you don't want intersect. Intersect will basically, it will only keep the parts that are within the cube. Difference will be, it will take a cube-like shape out of the text. So we're just going to go ahead and apply that. It'll take a couple seconds max, depending on how fast your PC is. And then here comes the magic, is when you remove this cube, now the text will be separated. But again, it is not without its flaws, because now the text is still one whole object, and we don't want it as whole one object, because obviously we can't apply textures to different parts. Well, we can, but that's a very long-winded way going about it. So we're going to go into edit mode. We are going to press A, and we're going to press P, and this will separate the mesh into different parts, and we want to separate it by loose parts. So any parts that are connected together by the same vertices will still be connected. We'll just go out of edit mode, and then we'll press A to deselect everything. So now all of these are different parts. They're different meshes with their own properties and characteristics. So this is where the texturing comes in. So I'm just going to quickly set up a light, just so we can actually see what we're doing. So I will be back in a couple seconds. Alright guys, I'm back. I've just set up a simple light source, or a light room as some people may call it. It's just a simple lighting room which lights up our text nice and bright from all angles so we can see nice reflections and stuff. I'm just going to set my render device to GPU. I've done a video in the past teaching you how to do that thing, so go ahead and watch that video. Okay, so now this is the texturing, so we're going to have to go and select one of our meshes and go over to the materials tab, which is that little circle there, press new and just leave it at the default diffuse. Now we're going to jump into the compositing, so where it says default, get that little menu drop down and go into compositing, change this to the rendered view, so now we can see what's actually going on, and then just pan around using your shift and middle mouse button. We're going to check use nodes, and we are going to check our materials. So we want to affect the nodes of the materials. Now we're going to set this up, and then you will connect the last one, and then it will magically transform into this wonderful texture. So first of all, we're going to shift A, so add input texture coordinates. We're going to shift A, add, go down to vector, and go down to mapping. Shift A, go down to normal map. We're going to add that in. Shift A, go to texture this time, image texture, slot that in between the mapping and the normal map. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift A and then add in a glossy shader, and then shift D to duplicate that, just bring it down, and we're going to shift A again, bring in a mix shader, connect the okay, so we'll start from the left hand side. We're going to connect the object, so the object texture coordinate, into the input of the mapping, the output of the mapping into the input of the image texture, the output of the image texture into the input of the normal map, and then we're going to bring in the normal map into the displacement. And then what we're going to do with this, just going to select the diffuse and delete that. As you can see, it will go black. Do not worry, because we will replace this by these, so just connect them like so, and then now you should see this little shiny texture. We're just going to bring the roughness down on these two, and as you can see, we got this nice shiny texture on our text. Actually, I'm just going to enable more sampling so I can see it more clearly. So just bring that down to 0, and it'll just render until you change the view. So we're going to do that. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and find an image. You can find normal maps all over the internet. Just type in royalty-free normal maps, or if you've done what I've done, go into Crazy Bump or Photoshop or even GIMP, and you can actually make a normal map of your own. These normal maps are essentially purple-like images with data, and the blue parts represent the dips, the red parts represent the bumps coming out. So we're just going to select a nice one. I don't know. We'll go with the leather texture. There we go. So now you can see that we have our normal map on there, but it looks a bit confusing. So we're going to drop the strength down to 0.05, and now you can see it's a bit clearer, and we're going to, so on the image texture node, set it from flat to box. So now we can see it's not stretched around the side. No, closest. Box flat. So as you can see, before it was stretched around the side where that's not the original face, so it just stretches it on the x-axis to fit. So we're going to set that to box, so basically it makes a bounding box around it, and it just makes the texture look a hell of a lot nicer. So now we're just going to give it some color, so just change the color. The top one generally for these, that is the color that it reflects, that is the main base color that it emits. So we'll just change that to something like blue or something, and we'll change the reflection color to blue. There we go. Very nice. I'll just mess with the FAC. You don't have to mess with the FAC. It is not key. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select the other text. And if you're not sure of which one you've selected, go back into solid mode by pressing that little button there, and just make sure that that is the one circled. So this is very simple. We're literally just going to duplicate the texture for each of these letters, because I set up the nodes in such a way that it doesn't matter what is being textured. So we're going to select material 2, as that's the second material we've created. So material 2, go around all of these and select material 2, And then hopefully, after a little bit, you should be done. So let's do these last few. Then the last one there. Okay, so now when we go back into rendered mode, you'll see that all of these top halves are now textured, and this is starting to look a lot like that reference image we had. So now we're going to go down to the bottom one. You should know when you selected it because your node setup will just clear because there is nothing there. So now what we're going to do is, because that has no texture, we're just going to go ahead and add one here. So select new texture, and we should have the exact same setup. Or if you want to do the quick option like I do, you still have it selected, select material 2, and as you can see we have this little number down here, 9, 10, whatever it may be. Select that, and that will basically make it a new texture. So when we edit this, it won't change all of the textures. So if we go back up there and we change this, as you can see, it changes all of the textures. So we're just going to go ahead and leave that where it was. We're going to select this one. So now when we change this, it is not going to change the texture one bit. So we're going to maybe put that, I don't know, say a reddish color. We'll put it to orange. That looks quite nice. Okay, so now we're going to select this one. And literally all we're going to do is select material 4, and then it will change all of these textures right in front of your eyes. I don't know why, but that color scheme looks very familiar. I don't know where it's familiar from, but it does look very familiar. So now we have got all our textures set up and done, and they're all looking very, very sexy and very nice. And the good thing with this is, because we've only essentially got 2 textures, if you want to change one of these, so say the roughness, you want to put the roughness up, all you have to do is change it on one of them, and it will change it for all of them. If you want to put the strength down on that, so 0.01, because you don't want to have that as prominent as the top, you can easily do so. So anyway guys, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, hope you guys learnt something. I certainly did when I first learned how to do this. I was really surprised at how easy it can be. Not everything in Blender or animating is hard. It doesn't have to be hard. So anyway guys, have a great day. Hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next one.